Kia ora and welcome to Sam's Take, a series about entertainment news and reviews, with me, Sam Realstone. This week we're getting into the latest film from the DC Universe, The Suicide Squad. Written and directed by James Gunn, the film follows the Suicide Squad, a team of supervillains captured by Amanda Waller and given near impossible tasks in return for time off of their sentences. First of all, a big part of the lore of the squad is that many of them don't make it to the end of their missions, and James Gunn has come out and said don't get too attached to many characters, and all I can say is, don't. On a related note, this film is R16, so keep that in mind. This is of course a soft reboot to 2016's Suicide Squad directed by David Ayer, which was very negatively received by both critics and fans. There is allegedly a real director's Ayer cut out there, similar to the Snyder cut of Justice League we got earlier this year, so only time will tell if we see that. Up top, I had a lot of fun with this film. It's a great popcorn film if you're really looking for intense stunts and action and violence, if that's your sort of thing, as well as some bright, colourful characters. I'm also so happy they're digging deep for characters for the roster of the squad, pulling out winners like Polka Dot Man and Peacemaker with comic-accurate costumes, no less. Speaking of, let's do a little bit of a roll call. Obviously, we have Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, Joel Kinnaman as Colonel Rick Flag, Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, and Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. But we also have a lot of fresh faces. Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, a guy who in the comics is an enemy of Superman, and whose power is being able to create weapons out of thin air essentially, which is pretty well adapted for this movie. Polka Dot Man, played by David Dastmalchian, a commonly ridiculed Batman villain whose powers in the comics is high-tech polka dots that can do many different things such as grow in size, become buzzsaws, or just make a hole. Anywhere. His powers are altered slightly for this film, but in a way that definitely works. Peacemaker, played by John Cena. He's more or less a hero in the comics, but has become a part of the Suicide Squad in pursuit of peace, by any means. King Shark, voiced by Sylvester Stallone. He does what you'd expect. He's an anthropomorphic shark. He's got shark powers. And a dad bod. The Thinker, played by Peter Capaldi. He's mainly just a super smart supervillain. He thinks a lot and does bad things. There's actually quite a few different versions in the comics, but this version was specifically created for this new movie. Ratcatcher 2, played by Daniela Melchior. She's the second installment of the villain Ratcatcher, a Batman villain with the ability to control rats. Obviously. Savant, played by Michael Rooker. He's kind of a mystery one, as he's more of a hacker-type character in the comics, whereas here he's got some kind of accuracy powers. Blackguard, played by Pete Davidson. He's a mercenary from the Booster Gold comics, part of an organised crime group called the 1000. Weasel, motion captured by Sean Gunn. He's a giant weasel. That's it really. TDK, played by Nathan Fillion. His original name in the comics was Arm Fall-Off Boy, and is actually inspired on a parody character created by a fan. His powers do what they say on the tin. His arms fall off. Javelin, played by Flula Borg, a German former Olympic athlete who used his uncanny javelin skills to turn to a life of crime. Dude throws javelins. It's in the name. Mongal, played by Mei Ling Ing, alien daughter of Mongol, who in the comics is a Thanos-type character in the DC universe, and was coincidentally co-created by one of Thanos' creators, Jim Starlin. While the big roster of characters does make this movie more colourful, I do have a couple of gripes. As per nowadays, a lot of the jokes were used in the trailers, which kinda sucks, and the writing was just a kind of a bit meh at points. Everyone's just kind of acting a bit dumb in different situations, which seems like a bit of a James Gunn thing, similar to what he did with Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Gets a bit old, but funny enough. I also noticed it kind of follows a few of the same story beats as the 2016 original. Like they do a fight, do another fight, they all then have a heart-to-heart in a bar, albeit it's written and performed better, but still. But there are subtle character arcs that shine through, and the ideas are much more creative than the first one for sure, but that bar was pretty low. When it finally does slow down, the conversations between the characters are actually quite compelling. They're villains, but they get humanized before then going to commit multiple murders. Every character gets a moment, even if it is just to die. And each one has a very distinct personality. A couple of standouts were King Shark and Ratcatcher 2, who I feel has one of the most satisfying arcs in the movie, next to Bloodsport. Though I did feel he was just Deadshot 2.0, but done better. Rick Flag is big dad energy within the group, which I feel is fun when his pseudo-kids are supervillains. Waller is perfect, as seen in the last film, and does not give a rat's, acting just as ruthlessly as she does in the comics. John Cena is having the best time as Peacemaker, big commitment to just being a big dumb character. I mean, it's the only thing he's good at, but at least he knows his brand. And of course, Margot Robbie is very comfortable in the role of Harley Quinn, adding to the canon of the character whilst also putting her own spin on it. And then, as seen in the trailer, we have the villain of Starro the Conqueror, an extraterrestrial starfish. Yep, first appearing in the comics in 1960, and one of the original foes of the Justice League. It has the same powers as we see in the film: mind control, asexual reproduction, and cloning, to name a few. It actually would have been fun to see the Justice League go up against Starro, but to do that they'd probably need a solidified canon cinematic team. Regardless, super fun and cool that we got such a ridiculous character as Starro on the big screen, very on brand for the wackiness of James Gunn. I did feel like we didn't get enough of Starro as a villain, and it did fall victim to being the cliche third act big monster just a touch. There are also some MacGuffin human villains who are really just there to give the squad a way to get to Starro. This is a little lazy in my opinion, particularly from James Gunn. While I don't always agree with his humour and find it to be a bit simple at times, he is a good writer, so it was a bit of a letdown. But certainly didn't ruin the movie by any means. I went in looking for some comprehensible action scenes, compelling characters, comic book moments, and some bright colours for my monkey brain. And I feel like I got that, so it's a recommendation from me. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode of Sam's Take, and I'll be back next time for more entertainment news and reviews.